Welcome to Search for Signs. My name is Gary Willing. If this information interests you, please press the like and subscribe button and press the bell for notifications. Well, good day to you. It is July the 23rd, 2020, and I hope you're having a wonderful day wherever you are. All right, I do have quite a bit of questions to cover in this video, and I'll try to get it done as quickly as I can so I have enough time to read Benjamin Creme's Master's article at the end, hopefully. All right, now if you have a question about Maitreya or the Masters of Wisdom, you can always post that question as a comment, or you can email me directly at searchforsigns@mail.com, and then in the next video I will do my best to answer the question in the next video. So hopefully that helps. All right, now before I get into the question and answer portion of this video, I do want to point out the background image that I put in this video. Now this of course is how Maitreya looked when he appeared out of the blue to 5,000 or 6,000 people in Nairobi, Kenya in June of 1988, so quite some time ago. Now, of course, he does not look like this on TV today, because if he did, it would be very easy for all of us to see who is speaking to us on TV. Now, Maitreya obviously looks very different, and his message and the way he's speaking is very quiet and very muted. I'm sure even the questions that he's being answered are quite simple and maybe not directive enough and insightful enough questions to really bring about the answers that would make it a lot easier for people to see who Maitreya is on TV, if that makes any sense, because he's not going to infringe upon the free will of the listener or the interviewer themselves. So if the interviewer who is representing the listener is not asking questions that are very deep questions or more kind of shallow surface questions, then he's going to answer it in a way that it's very simple and very shallow, so it's not going to have that kind of oomph to it that might make it easier for people to see Maitreya and recognize him on TV. But rest assured that with each time he speaks, he's speaking heart to heart, he's speaking with wisdom, with love, and he's giving, on whatever level he's giving, solutions to our ever-growing problems. And according to Benjamin Creme's master, those who are hearing him and seeing him on TV, even if they don't recognize him as a Messiah figure or the avatar or God's representative or the Lord of Love or whatever we want to call him, and just seeing him as an ordinary person, are still taking what he's saying, and after they turn the TV off and are thinking about what he's saying. So it is having an effect on the hearts and minds of those who hear him, the millions of people who have heard him already. Now this quote, "Take your brother's needs as a measure of your actions," I'm sure that he's either said it, he's already said it because it's a quote, but he's either said it on TV now, or he will, when he's more known for who he is, will definitely say this exact same quote or say something very similar to it, because as great a need as it is today for all of us to serve, we must, because the need is great, our measure of our actions must be great, I guess is my point. So hopefully that helps. All right, now let's get on to the questions here. Do you think that Maitreya will come without occasion, or after a collapse in the world economy in preparation for war? Well, Maitreya entered London on a Tuesday even. It was, like according to the TV show Seinfeld, Monday has a feel and Friday has a feel, but Tuesday doesn't have a feel. So he arrived in London on Tuesday, July 19th, 1977. I know for myself, I was alive during that time, and I don't remember what I was doing during that day, so I doubt anybody put even stale cookies and Kool-Aid out in celebration of him coming back into the world, the Christ himself coming back into the everyday world. So if it wasn't for Benjamin Creme, none of us would have even known that he had done that, right? So when he entered London, he lived in the Asian community of London for quite some time, and there were, of course, people who started to recognize him as the Imam Mahdi, but they didn't recognize him on day one. It took a while before people started to see that he might be something other than just a person living in their community. So, and of course, there were rumors flying around that he could be the Imam Mahdi or whatever, but no, there was no occasion to him coming. He arrived in London via an airplane in order to fulfill the man-made prophecy that the Christ would return back from the clouds. And he did it with as little amount of trauma that would cause people, because had he returned in the clouds the way that the Christians are expecting, it would have caused a lot of trauma. People go, oh my gosh, right? So people don't understand, fundamentalist Christians don't understand, the fundamentalists of all religions don't understand that the great teacher, it has to live within a lot of laws, but the main one is the law of harmlessness and the law of cause and effect and the law of free will. He has to work within those laws, and they're very complex. When Maitreya is going to talk about it, it's very simple, but they're very complex laws. So he can't just come waltzing in there and just say, listen up, losers, I'm the Christ, come back. I mean, A, nobody would believe him, and B, if he had come back from the clouds in order to do that, it would have confirmed in everybody's mind that he was the Christ, and then they would be believing what he said based off of that, and not based off of a heartfelt response that maybe his solutions are the way that we need to go. And so eventually we would find ourselves back on the edge of the cliff. So the most important thing is for us to see and want for the world what he is advocating for the world. So now, in terms of preparation for war, of course, we are living in an age of war, but the age of the barbarian age is about to end, and it's coming to an end very quickly. I don't think any one of us could really say that World War III will never happen until we start to institute the principle of sharing. Once we do that, we can pretty much say that, yeah, it's never going to happen. But Maitreya would say that he is the guarantee, because he actually entered the everyday world on July 19th, 1977, a day that doesn't live in most people's memories. That because he is in the everyday world, that there's no way that he is the guarantee that we will destroy ourselves. We will not destroy ourselves, excuse me. So anyway, now the question I always have to ask is, because he flew in a plane, did he sit in the aisle? Was he a window guy, or was he so selfless that he actually took the middle seat? Or is he one of these guys, no, I need the leg room. I believe it or not, I actually think about stuff like that. So anyway, right now, in terms of the collapsing of the world economy, of course, it's been collapsing for decades now, and the market might be up, but what the everyday person on the main street, are they living better than they were 25, 30 years ago? No. In a lot of ways, we're living a lot worse than we were living then. The biblical prophecy, the first shall become last and the last first, I think has to do with the priorities of our governments and our people. Right now we live in a world where the idea of socialism, especially in this country, most people consider it an evil. But it's only an evil when it's socialism towards the everyday person. But we've been living in a country where socialism for the rich is totally accepted. I mean, historically, that's happened. They bailed out the billionaires, the billion-dollar companies, the Fortune 500 companies, the Fortune 100 companies, the Fortune 50 companies that have billions of dollars. They've been bailing them out like crazy, giving them money, just give it to them. But when it comes time for the everyday person who might need a little bailout, then it's a huge issue. Then you get the response like Ivanka Trump said, well, to the 40 million people who can't find work, well, just go find something different. That's their attitude toward that, right? So, but in the not so distant future, and I think it's going to be under the inspiration of Maitreya, the priorities of the people we'll see what's really important, and then therefore we will force our governments to reorient their priority toward the people, to save the hungry millions around the world that die every day. There are more people who die of hunger every day than nearly each one of the pandemics individually. And by pandemic, I don't necessarily mean the coronavirus, but you look at cancer. There are more people who die of hunger every year than cancer, or every day than cancer even. I mean, it's crazy, but yet those people have no voice. So when we start to put a spotlight on it, and Maitreya helps to put a spotlight on that need, and people really see it, and he articulates the need better than anybody could, we will rush to save them, just like we're trying to rush to save people with breast cancer and rush to save people who have heart attacks every year and so forth. We will put that much emphasis or more into that. So when people start to relate, when their hearts start to open up because Maitreya is speaking to them on TV, and they start to relate to that person, and they start to see it in that way, that what's happening to them is happening to me, it'll be like a floodgate of change. And I think that's where we're headed. So hopefully that helps. But all the systems of the world, from the economic to the religious to the social to the healthcare to the artistic structures even, are all based on the past, are based on the energies of Pisces, which the idealism of Pisces and the individuality of Pisces are divine qualities, but humanity has twisted it and thwarted it, perverted it, and distorted it into competition, greed, idealism at the expense of other people's ideals, those kind of things. And eventually these structures that are built under the light of competition and greed will eventually collapse no matter what our world leaders do. As each day passes and we start to become more and more Aquarian and under the influence of the Aquarian age, they won't be able to function. So it's the truth of the matter. And our world leaders are so ignorant of the laws of life that they don't even know that that's what's going on. They just keep trying to build it up and keep trying to put themselves on top. And then, okay, well, we're going to have to give each other money so that, we can stay on top. I mean, if you weren't paying attention, I mean, just a few months ago, the Federal Reserve said we have an unlimited amount of supply. So they can just take that decimal and move it over a little bit to the right to create more money for themselves. They just made it up, and then give it to their peeps, And so that's the world we're living in. That's the world and the structures that are going to end. So these are the end times of those structures. It's not the end time of life on earth. It's just the end times of living like that, And that's why the teacher is speaking in the way that he's speaking. So we start to see the evil in that and the how those structures aren't suiting everybody. So if they don't suit everybody, then why do we even have them? And yet, you look at, I saw something the other day on my job that I thought I would never see, actually. It was a homeless couple. They were probably in their 60s, living in their car. They had all their junk in their car, all their stuff in the back of their car. They had stuff all piled up on the dashboard and stuff, and they're living in the parking lot. And they have a bumper sticker on the front of their car that says, Trump Pence 2020, keep America great. And I keep thinking to myself, and I was thinking to myself when I was interacting with them, I was like, I didn't say anything to them, but I was like, you're supporting a system that doesn't give a shit about you. So why care about them? Why not try a new system that might be a little bit better, that would suit your needs, especially in a time when you're out of work, But it's going to take people a little longer to figure that out than others, I guess. But anyway, which kind of leads me to my next question, which is a political question. Rick, again, thank you, Gary, for all your dedication. Rick, as always, it's my pleasure. I, being a Democrat, have been on the fence post. I decided to support the President of the United States a few months ago, believing he was our best hope in taking down the abduction, human trafficking, and sex trade of women and children. Do you have any insight as to whether this would occur no matter who happens to sit in the Oval Office? You don't have to answer the question, as it may not be directly related to your message here. Anyhow, I'm starting to feel a move back to my party. I know it's not your intention to persuade anyone politically. I just respect your perspective and opinion. Thank you. Hey, Rick, could you do me a favor? Could you get in contact with my 15-year-old daughter and tell her to respect my perspective and opinion on things? Because she thinks I'm a moron. But most teenagers look at their parents like that. But if you could help me out with that, it would be great. Anyway, first of all, when you say I am a Democrat, right? Maitreya does not align himself with any party or any religion. And he would even say that if you say you're a Christian, or you say you're a Muslim or a Buddhist, or if you say you're a Democrat or you're a Republican or so forth, he says isms are like drugs. They cause the person to forget who they really are, which is the self, the divine self. So the divine self doesn't label itself as anything. Those are all illusions. So to say you're a Democrat, I would say, if I can give you any advice on this thing to listen to, it would be to look at yourself as a soul, and don't look at yourself as a Democrat. Now support that candidate who you feel has the people's needs at heart, you know what I mean? So for myself, I am just as disenfranchised with the Democratic Party as I am with the Republican Party right now. For one, they're both corporations running both parties. They're just different language, right? The other thing is, just in March, I was getting ready to go to the polls and vote for my candidate, who I thought had the people's best interests at heart, Bernie Sanders. And right before we're supposed to go to the primary or go to the polls to vote in the primary, they cancel it. And then a week later, they just presumed that Biden is the winner. Then I never got a chance to vote. So I've never been a Biden fan whatsoever. I like him a little bit more than I like Trump, but I don't think he's the poster child for change either. I think that Bernie Sanders actually, to a greater or lesser extent, would have been a better suit for the presidency, because his ideas about social justice and social change and those kind of things he's been talking about for decades, and he hasn't changed his message one iota. So I would say he would be more of a person that would get in there and not flip the script, because I think Obama kind of did that a little bit. And it would have the people's needs at heart, and he would look to Maitreya for advice on how to do things, and I think he would be willing to change and help support other countries and so forth like this through the principle of sharing a lot better than Biden could. So I'm still hoping out for the hope of hopes that he might slip in there some kind of way. I know it's like being in the ninth inning, in baseball, and you're down like, a few runs, and it's, the bottom of the ninth, and you're at bat though. There's still a possibility he could get in there, but it's like the down on the count and everything like that. So we'll see how it goes. But no, I don't think so. And then in terms of the sex trade and human trafficking, abduction, and so forth, I don't think it really matters who's in the Oval Office, because they're just one person. I think it's going to take all of us being aware of it and all of us stepping up and doing our part to stop it. A friend of mine, where she worked, there was a couple that came in, and she thought for a bit that what girl could have been trafficked for whatever reason. Something kind of set off her mom bells, and so she called what's called Safe Place, which is a non-profit organization which helps in these situations. They called the police, they caught up with a couple, and yada yada yada, saved the girl. So I think it takes people like that, who aren't afraid to step up for what's right, to really solve the problem. But the more awareness is on it, the more people are going to see it. It's going to make it harder and harder for these people to hide in public and so forth. Now, in terms of the President of the United States being the poster child for change and that kind of thing, I'm going to actually go the other way. I think when Ghislaine Maxwell, if she's allowed to speak, and start to name names, because they all know that inner circle and that network that Jeffrey Epstein had in Florida with all these young girls and these rich celebrities and world leaders and so forth, we will probably all be horrified at some of the names that come up. And there's going to be a lot of them, I'm sure. Now, my grandmother used to always say, you're guilty by association. So there's no way that these people, these celebrities, are a part of these parties, even if they didn't do anything themselves, didn't know that stuff was going on. There's no way. There's just no way. People talk, what I'm saying? Now, maybe there might have been a few that didn't, but they had to have known something, as far as I'm concerned. They had to. Anytime you're at a party where there's drugs, even if you don't do drugs yourself, you know what's going on, right? You can just tell, right? Somebody goes in the back room and comes out and they got a little white powder on their nose. That stuff's going on, right? And there's a lot of pictures of Donald Trump even at these parties. Now, the thing that I thought was very interesting, it was a perspective that a reporter on CNN said, Dana Bash, when asked the other day about Ghislaine Maxwell, Donald Trump said he knew her really well because he used to live in Palm Beach and stuff like this, and so did Jeffrey Epstein, and they obviously hobnobbed together and so forth. And he goes, I wish her well. Now, the last time he said something like that, he was speaking about Roger Stone, who was one of his political cronies who was arrested for all this political fraud and political illegal activity and so forth. And then what did he just do? He commuted his sentence. And there was somebody else he said that about. So is this a tacit communication directly to Ghislaine Maxwell that, if you don't say anything about me or anybody else, then I'll take care of you? I don't know. But to be honest with you, I think we're living in a world that's so twisted and distorted right now that even if it came out and they had pictures of Donald Trump in sexually compromising positions with underage girls, that he probably still would get away with it. I mean, he himself even said that he could walk out in the middle of Fifth Avenue and shoot somebody in the head and get away with it. So, God, who knows? Who knows what would happen? But I do think that there will be political leaders named. I think Bill Clinton is probably named in there too, because his picture's in there too. So, I think they're all going to get named eventually. So hopefully they won't just let it go, and hopefully whoever's involved in it won't just walk away unscathed. Hopefully they'll kind of get into it. All right, so anyway, next question. I see you, do you see me? Gautama Buddha achieved complete enlightenment, correct? So is it safe to say that Maitreya Buddha too was not born enlightened and has or will achieve enlightenment prior to his declaration? As a matter of fact, it is said that it took him 6 years to accomplish complete enlightenment. Perhaps Maitreya is in the process of waking up. No, it is the simplest answer to that. The longer, more roundabout version of it is Maitreya was the first of humanity to become a master, and he did it hundreds and hundreds of thousands of years ago. The consciousness of Maitreya and the cosmic vision of somebody at his level, we have no concept of what it is right now. We have no clue. We can't even really talk about it because it's so far above our own consciousness. I would say it would probably be very similar to one of the masters, like let's say Master Jesus, and the consciousness and the perception of early animal man. It would be that drastic of a conscious difference between Jesus and early animal man and somebody like Maitreya and a very, very high advanced initiate like Leonardo da Vinci. That would probably be the closest I could probably get to it for somebody who doesn't know. You know what I'm saying? I don't know, just like you don't know. Now, in terms of the Gautama Buddha achieving enlightenment in his lifetime, I think that was more of a symbol for him working with the Buddha himself. The Prince Gautama was not the Buddha, just as Jesus himself was not the Christ. They became the Buddha and the Christ respectively when the master who was the Buddha and Maitreya, who is the Christ, actually started to work and overshadow the then disciple Jesus and the then disciple Prince Gautama. And so when that happened, when the Buddha manifested himself and overshadowed the Prince Gautama in the way that he did, that was the first time, not the last time, but the first time that the wisdom aspect of God manifested itself perfectly in humanity. Just as when Maitreya overshadowed Jesus in Palestine 2,000 years ago, that was the first time that the love nature of God manifested itself perfectly in humanity. Not the last time, but the first time. Now, the enlightenment, so Maitreya, I don't think, and actually, not that I don't think, he doesn't need to wake up before his declaration. Humanity needs to wake up. Really, we are the ones that need to do it. Now, the awakening and the enlightenment of some of the symbols in the Buddhist text, I think, are really also symbols for humanity waking up. In terms of him being sheltered in the way that he was in the castle with his father, and then eventually seeing poverty in the way, and that awoken within him the wisdom aspect of God, I think is also symbols of humanity process of the same thing. And so hopefully that helps. All right. Now, next question. When you say the masters of involution obsessed Hitler, do you mean possessed? No, actually I mean obsessed, because Alice Bailey and Benjamin Creme, when referring to the masters of involution working through their disciples, they use the word obsessed. And I actually took the time to look this one up. There's Zen. It says obsession, from Latin obsedere, dire, to besiege, is a form of insanity caused, according to traditional belief, by the persistent attack of an invading spirit from outside the individual. Obsession is the opposite of possession, controlling by an invading spirit from within. Both, however, involve the usurpation of the person's individuality and control of the body by a foreign and disincarnated entity. So, because they both use those terms, and I don't really have as good an understanding about the whole process as they do, I use the same words as they do. So, but I can see where you're coming from, though. I mean, that's definitely an astute question. All right, the Netflix documentary called The Family, about the hidden religious hand behind the American government, is very interesting. They have a lot of influence. You'll have to check it out. Thank you. And then lastly, Edgar Cayce also has a theory about hidden documents important to the origins of humanity buried under the paw of the Sphinx. Yeah, actually, I got the answer to that question from one of Benjamin Creme's books when somebody asked him about Edgar Cayce's prediction about that. So, and that's what he said. He said, yes, it's true. That there is information about Atlantis and the proof of Atlantis in scrolls or something like this, and that kind of thing, somewhere hidden around the Sphinx, and it will be found in the not so distant future. And I think it will probably coincide with the Masters coming out. So probably once the Masters come out, not too long after that, it'll be found. Benjamin Creme, for the most part, did not really hold a lot of credence to Edgar Cayce's predictions, as the same thing with Nostradamus' predictions. He didn't really hold a lot to it, but apparently Edgar Cayce got that one right. So just like me, a broken clock can be right twice a day. Now, I wanted to read one of Benjamin Creme's Masters articles at the end, as I always do, but I am running out of time, and I don't want it to get too long. So I will hold off on that till the next video. But until then, thank you so much for the questions. I look forward to more questions in the next video or so. And I hope you have a wonderful day. Take care. Remember to take action and help SOP save our planet. Thanks for listening, and we look forward to talking to you again in future videos.